Good afternoon, everyone. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. If you could stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, is there any public comment? Noting no public comment, can I get a verification of the posting of the agenda, please?
Tara Adams for the record. The agenda was posted on the 28th day of January 2026 between the hours of 3 and 5 p.m. at all of the locations listed on the agenda in accordance with statutes.
Thank you, Tara. Can I get an approval of this agenda as submitted?
Mr. Chair, I move for approval of this agenda as submitted.
Mr. Chair, second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Our first appointment and only appointment, 6A, consideration and possible action, approval of amended Churchill County fee schedule. With that, Randy, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate everybody showing up. I didn't think I'd have much this big of an audience, but we'll kind of kick this right in. Again, this is kind of a fee schedule workshop, more specifically to talk about our planning department fees, planning and building. So I'll kind of give an overview of our agenda. We'll have an overview of what we want to do today. We're going to discuss soft and hard costs associated with our permits. We'll talk about planning and zoning service and land fees, division fees. We'll discuss our current fee schedule and then our proposed fee schedule. We'll also talk about some water dedication fees today, water and sewer connection fees, and then we'll end it with some building department fees. I guess I should be working this, huh? So again, our overview, Public Works and Planning fee schedule hasn't been updated in approximately 20 years, and that's kind of, discussions with staff. Our building fees have not been updated for approximately 8 years. So, some of our concern is, our fees are relatively low, and we're not even collecting enough fees for more hard costs, but some of the soft costs that are associated with the department. Most of our fees do not I already said that, but we analyzed each application to determine the following: hard costs, soft cost, compared the fees to other agencies. We selected 5 that are around us for that. We have our current fees. We've calculated fees with hard cost only, and we've also calculated those fees with the soft, including the soft costs. And then we have our proposed fees. And then again, we want to have a discussion on our water dedication and our water and sewer connection fees. So again, our hard costs, these are things that are required to process the application, right? So those include printing our notices, envelopes, postage, certified mail if required, advertisement in the local paper, again, if required, and our survey review for maps. Right now, currently, we have a line item in our budget that we get a bill from our county surveyor from him to review maps, and we pay out of that budget line item. Our soft costs, we kind of broke it out into 2. So we have an administration soft cost, and that's for us to receive, process, and finalize our applications, prepare notices, prepare advertisements, meeting agendas, attend the meetings, and process the meeting minutes. And then we did the other side of it was our planning review, and that's for our planner and myself and our GIS tech to review these applications as well. So again, those involve meetings with the applicant. Those are pre-application meetings, any meetings during the process, attending the planning commission meetings, and then attending board meetings if necessary. Application review, plan review, prepare findings, and attend meetings. So that's kind of the definition of what we consider our soft cost. So really what we want to do now, and I'm going to move over to, before we get into our fee schedule, I kind of want to go through my worksheet that I have, and you guys should have a copy of this as well. Basically,
Randy,
yes.
this is Chris. Sorry, I got a question. At what point in your soft cost calculation, at what point is it a soft cost that could be charged back to the applicant in comparison to the cost of doing business? I mean, guys get paid a wage to work in that department to do certain tasks. At what point do you say, is it if something is over and above, or how did you define that?
Okay, so in our administration hours, I sat down with our staff, and we said, hey, for us to accept an application to finalize the NOFA, what I wanted to know the steps, and I want to know how many hours or time it's associated with that. And that's given us, if you look in the admin hours of this sheet, it's the fourth column over. Those are the admin hours that it's approximate time that our administrative assistant puts towards that application from start to finish. Again, these are more general hours. We have a general special use permit. She says, well, I need to intake the application. I need to make sure it's complete. Then I need to get notification letters out. We notify 300 feet or 30 unique owners. So we stuck with that 30 number as being the minimum, right? And then we have the postage, we have the prints. If there's an advertisement, we have an advertisement. Those are the hours that and then attend the meeting, do the minutes, finalize the thing. So that she says that's about, for a general SUP, is about 3.75 hours. And most of our applications are 3.75. Some of them get into to 1 hour. Some of them are 7.25 hours, depending on if we have to go to 2 board meetings or whatever. So discussion with more Diane on that. When I did the same thing with Dean. So we sat down with Dean and said, hey, Dean, how much time do you need to review a special use permit? And he came in here for a general special use permit. He's saying that it's about 16 hours of time for a general special use permit, right? If we get one that, and this was kind of a discussion, if we get one that took him 24 hours, we don't necessarily have anything in place that we would go collect that extra 8 hours worth of time, right? But you could have one where it only takes 10 hours too. So it's kind of hard because applications it's not the same one coming in day to day. So we kind of said in general, and it's kind of a hard discussion because, well, I have this, but then I have this, and then I don't have this, but I have, so it's kind of, hey, we just need to know a kind of a general time, and that's how we set those times. So the hard cost, again, these are more, we went through every application on this list. And we went through and we said, hey, for I guess I'll just stick with the special use permit, the general special use permit. For us to send notifications, to print them out, to do postage, it's about $67 of hard costs for us to process that application, right? If you go into, I'm gonna leave that there. If we go into like a conditional use permit, which is one of our new permits that we're talking about, that's for hazardous material. This one we have to, this one's $700 because we have to advertise in the paper, right? We have to advertise for the Planning Commission, then we have to advertise for the Board of County Commissioners meeting. So our hard cost associated with just that permit is approximately $700. So we went through each line item, and Diane did a good job in finding out exactly what we're going to do. And a lot of these you'll see the same, $67, $40, $40, $60. There's a lot of 67s and 40s because those are just general. We're sending out notifications because we've received this application, right? And we feel that we should be recovering at least at bare minimum these hard costs that's associated with these permits, because again, they're applying for that. If we don't collect those at bare minimum, the hard costs, this is coming out of the general fund, and that's kind of what we'd be paying for with the general fund. So we're saying if somebody wants to apply for a special use permit, they should at least pay bare minimum the hard cost it takes to process these applications. And then we got into the soft costs, and then again, like I explained earlier, we set hours for each permit for admin hours and then the planning hours. The planning hours have most of our planner's time. There is, in some situations or some permits, there's some review time from the GIS tech or coordinator, and then in some of these, there's some of my time in there. So again, these hours are kind of our base hours that we would allot that time for. And then moving on, we've kind of got this gray area in our table. These were kind of the five other jurisdictions we looked for comparisons. And then that next column, these are the average of other agencies. So these are the average of our 5 agencies that we looked into to say, hey, what are the other agencies charging for the same permits? And again, it's more just for reference. We didn't put this into account in our fees and our proposed fees. So our next column here, we have our current fee, and I just want to kind of give an example. Let's see, I had one here. Right now, we've got, I'll take the top one. We got an abandonment easement, and this would be like a right-of-way and other easements. We currently charge $100. Right now, it costs us just in hard costs to prepare that application. It cost us $475. So we're using $375 of general fund to pay to process that application. So we would say bare minimum if we wanted to get the cost just to cover the hard cost, we'd have to make that permit bare minimum $475. So the next 2 columns here, and I've named them wrong. The first column is calculated fee with the soft costs only. The second column would be the calculated fee with the soft and hard costs. So as you can see, and I'm just going to stay with the abandonment of easement, we've got $475 for the hard costs. We have about almost 4 hours of administrative time. We have about 5 hours of planning time. So that calculated fee with the hard and soft cost would be about $977 of time it takes to process our staff to do that application. So we would propose that fee to be $1,000, and that would cover the cost of those hard and soft costs for that fee. As we go down this, I can dive into detail if you guys want. I'll kind of go into the maps, but we can discuss any of these you would like. But again, that's kind of the concept. So we put together this spreadsheet to have soft costs, hard costs, comparison to other agencies, what it would be with just soft costs, what it would be with both, and then our proposed fee.
Randy?
Yes.
Sorry. Which other 5 agencies did you use? I can't read that gray.
No, I kept them small. So we used Story County, Lyon County, City of Fernley, Washoe County, and City of Reno. So it kind of gave us a pretty good spread of fees. The second page, let's see if I can do this here. So the second page, the first page was for services. So these are typically like our special use permits, our temporary use permits, transfer development rights, so on and so forth. The land division is more for our mapping. And this one, we ended up adding another column, and this is our survey review. So this is where our survey review comes in. Currently, like I said, we send our map out to our county surveyor. He does his review. He sends back his comments. Oh, I thought you had your hand up. I'm sorry. So he sends back his comments. He has a billable rate that he for his fees, and I think it's either per map or it's per hour. I can't remember which one it was, but I think it was per map. So I think I got to have some discussions, and I'd like to revisit his fees and make sure that we're still current on those. But again, we have our hard costs in planning. We have our survey review. Those are what I would consider as being hard costs because, again, we're paying the surveyor to review that. We should be collecting those fees back. We have our administration hours. We have our planning hours, and then so on and so forth, and all the way to our proposed fee. There's kind of, the plan U development is always a tough one. Right now, I think we have a conceptual plan or workshops, and then we have a PUD permit. And I think currently we have a PUD tentative map and a PUD subdivision map or a final map. We're going to kind of group those PUD tentative subdivision and the PUD final maps to be just subdivision or tentative subdivision maps and final subdivision maps. That's why the tentative or the PUD ones aren't there. But you'll see if you go through the PUD, you've got $1,250 for the workshops. You have about $3,500 for the permit, $3,000 for the tentative subdivision map, and then $2,250 for the final map, which for that plan unit development would be about $10,000 for that whole process from start to finish. Again, but if you go back and you look at the planning hours for that, you're 70, 86, 86, 40, about 96 hours of just planning time to process that application for a PUD. So, I was kind of struggled because our current fees were, $1,000, $1,500, $1,250, $750. So we're about $4,500. So we're doubling that process, right? But it's really to cover the cost of our planning department to review that permit, to review that development, and make sure that it conforms to code, right? So you'll see these ones kind of, the PUD really stood out to me here. The rest of them were kind of minor increases as far as like a tentative parceling plan. We were 1,500. Now we're 2,000. Parcel map was 1,000. We're 1,500 for a new fee. So these ones were kind of not as big of an increase as our services. If we go back to the services, we do have some that were $0, and now we have a $300 fee, right? Or we have $100 and now it's an $800 fee. So that was kind of the thought that we went through when we were proposing these new fees. Again, I think for us, we really need to cover the hard costs. We need to have our application fees cover the bare minimum, the hard cost, and that's why we've got that column in there. My thought is, somebody's bringing an application and, if there's 16 hours of planning time, that should be recouped. That the applicant should be paying for that time and not, out of our general fund. And again, that's why some of these service fees are higher than what we currently have. So, with that, I'm going to just ask if there's any questions before I go into the proposed fee schedule.
Thank you, Randy. Any questions or comments for Randy about what we discussed so far?
So Chapter 239 for public records, 239054, says that we can charge for GIS services, and that actually includes the actual cost of the medium used to provide the information. And we've never actually really done that, so I just want to throw that out there because the statute says we can collect to recoup some of those costs. That's gathering the information or the data, maintenance and updating the database, hardware, software, quality control, and consultation. So I just want to add that in, that the statute says we can actually recover some of those costs by passing those off, so.
Okay,
And
thank
that-
you.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. And that's for, you said the programs and.
Yeah, for GIS.
gotcha.
So it's specific for geographic information systems. So it's to help fund that portion of that technology. So I just wanted to add that in there.
We do have some more line items as far as like products for purchase, and that would be, if our GIS coordinator prepares a map and prints that map, we can charge for that map. So we weren't really changing those fees, but I didn't know about that other one, so thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Linda.
Just a quick question, and it's great that you are collecting fees for all the mailings and the publications. However, my office actually pays for those publications, so if you're getting fees, you're collecting fees for it, maybe we can kind of reconstruct that. Thoughts?
I guess I would have to figure out where, I don't know where those, when we collect them, they go to an account number, right, Sherry? When we collect the fees we collect now, they go to so it goes to the revenue, so it would be.
Probably talk about an expense account, maybe. Put it in a different expense account for their publications is my thought. Yeah,
Sherry, your mic.
The expenses go to an expense account, and then the revenues would go to a revenue account, so.
correct. But the expenses for those publication goes into my budget.
It does.
Yes, so we've been paying for it. I mean, all along. It just, I just thought about it,
So if we
The
have an
publication in the paper?
if we have an advertisement, we pay for it and code it.
Pam,
I just want to
Now-
clarify. The planning does their own. So a lot of these things, the planning sends out letters, the planning has mailing costs, the planning does a legal notice. Then it moves up to our board. I do that same thing over again. I do letters, I have postage costs, and we have a legal notice as well. So if they're collecting all the fees, but our office is actually out the costs for what we're doing, that's the point that I wanted to make.
Yeah, and just to follow up with that, these are more for the planning, public works planning and building department, not if we had to go and do with, if it was for the board, again, that's what Pam does, not us. This is
But
just-
does that mean that some of those hard costs for things that go from the planning to the board need to be doubled? And then some of that revenue would go to planning and some of that revenue would go to the clerk treasurer because they're bearing some of that expense and planning's bearing some of that expense?
Yeah.
Is that?
Potentially,
okay.
yeah. And we may have some of those, I guess we probably do have some of those because we do have some hard costs that are doubled because we do go to the board, right? If a TDR, we go from the sending site to the planning commission to the board, so we still have to do all that. So I guess I have to go back and dive into that. So maybe we are collecting some of those fees or would be in our proposed new fees.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, just that clarification.
Okay, any other questions or comments? If not, go ahead, Randy.
Thank you. So again, this is not on our current fee schedule layout. This is just our working one, so this would be, go on to our current one. But again, I can kind of go through as much of this as you want in detail. But really what this does is this has our planning applications, currently our current fee, and then our proposed fee. Like I said, I did want to touch on a couple. Our conditional use permit, again, that's a new permit that we have because of hazardous materials. Those ones do go to the planning commission. They go to the board, not once, but twice. So we have we've set that at a $5,000 permit fee. Again, these are probably large projects or really complex projects, so it takes us a lot of time. But we also have the ability to collect a deposit if we have to go out to third-party review. Now we have a deposit in there where we can pay for that third-party review. We did make some conditional zoning permits. Again, those were more for the industrial area with the intent that we would be using those in our commercial zoning districts as well down the road. Most of these follow the same prices or fees as the special use permit because we're doing most of this. We're basically doing the same work. We're just not going to the planning commission for a decision. Trying to think here. We probably got, variances. Variants tend to be, $300. They're a pretty small fee. That's an easy thing to throw $300 out and ask for a variance. To have a deviation from code. Again, those really cost, those really take us, I'm trying to get to here, about $884 in hard and soft costs. So again, we're just trying to recoup that money. So if there's any questions on those, I can get into more detail. If we go into the next slide, we've got more of our mapping. And again, same thing, we've got what maps they are, their current fee and our proposed fee. Probably the only one that we have, like I said, we discussed the PUD. We do have the amended parcel map. Currently, we're 750. When we have it, typically that amended map, if we're doing a map amendment, there's errors in the map. We still have to go through the same process to do it. So, instead of being 750, we said, well, hey, we'll make it half the price of the original map, right? Because we're still trying to recoup some of those costs to reprocess that map. Most of the work's been done, but we still have to send it back to the surveyor. We still have to do the same thing. We just don't have to do all of it. So, and I think that's it. So if there's any questions on that, if you want to get into any more detail, we can do that.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Randy?
I just had a couple comments on that, the fees. When we do an appeal to the planning commission, that comes to us, and there's multiple people involved for us to have a meeting. And if the last appeal, I think it lasted probably 45 minutes or an hour. Did you factor in the proposed cost to cover some of those expenses as well? That's one question. And the other question would be, on your deposit, do we want to name a specific amount, like 20% deposit? You know, clarify that so people, when they look at this, they know it's 20% deposit to move forward. And then the temporary use permit, one of our favorite ones. It seems like when we always talk about those, there's always multiple inspections for some reason. And I just want to make sure that we're recouping all those trips. Because a trip, I would assume a trip is $100, time you figure the truck and the person. So that's the three things I had on that. And then do we need to establish an hourly rate for extra services if something goes beyond what, you know, like if you said something's 36 hours and it ended up being 80, do we establish what rate we're going to charge for those additional hours? Thank you.
Okay. So I'll start with the appeal of the appeal. Yes, we came in here and we kind of did, we didn't have an appeal of the director decision. And now that we have the conditional zoning permits, somebody can appeal that decision. And I guess we've had other administrative permits that could be appealed, probably haven't had an appeal. When we did that, again, we looked at our hard cost. The appeal of the directors, typically like $25, because again, we're just notifying. It's more just admin time and planning hours time. That came out to about $464, hence that set that fee at $500 to appeal the director's decision. We did the same thing for the appeal of the planning commission decision. Again, this one, trying to think here. So we don't incur any of the hard costs in the planning department because that's done in Linda's department, right? Because she's the one preparing all that. So that's why we're zero. We don't have any administrative hours because again, we're not doing any of that work. But we do have some planning hours associated with that, and that's time for us to prepare our stuff and then go to, of course, to the Board of County Commissioners for presentation and attend that board meeting. The planning cost came out to be about $565. This one, I think we just kind of, there's no rhyme or reason to this $750. I think it was just kind of take that original $250 plus our cost and make it about that $750. I guess we'd have to kind of coordinate with the clerk's office to see, how much cost it takes for them. And that, of course, that can go up or down, probably up, not down. So does that answer your question on the appeals? Okay. The deposit. So currently in code, we can ask for, and it's more renewable energy projects, we could ask for a $50,000 deposit, I think, in code. I think when we had NV Energy come through, we asked for a couple $20,000 deposits, and that was more for third-party review. So we don't really have a set cost. It's just in code we have a $50,000 deposit we could ask for as we do that project. So NV Energy is still going. They've spent approximately $8,000, I think, out of one of their deposits. When they finish their project, they close it out, we'll give them the remainder of their deposit back. So, but no, to answer your question, we don't really have a set number. It's just kind of we look at the project, see what it takes, what we think that deposit we need to collect for fees, and then that's what we ask for. The temporary use permit. So the temporary use permit, let me just get to my temporary use permit. Again, the hard costs are pretty small. We're about $40. Again, that's for notifications, right? Somebody gets a permit, we got to notify neighbors. Currently, it's at 300 feet because it got updated to when we did the conditional zoning permit. The TUPs got grouped in with that. We proposed in our workshop with the Planning Commission to take that back to more of an administrative one and be 100 feet instead of the 300 feet. So that could potentially reduce the cost of our hard costs. We still have about the same planning hours to prepare that. We still have the admin hours. We still have the 4 hours of planning time to do that. That comes out to be about $479.50 of planning department fees. since we've combined building into the planning department, the public works and planning, there's a placement fee that goes along with that temporary use permit, and it's $300. So that $479 plus the $300 came out to $779, and that's where we came up with $800. The $300 placement permit, that's what we use to go out and inspect the connections and do all those field inspections. So that's where those fees would come from. The $479, that's just the planning department. So to answer your question, yes, we've included the trips to go out and do our inspections. If we have troubles and we have to go out and do more inspections, again, we don't have a mechanism in place to charge them more for that currently, but that's something that we could potentially do. And that goes into the next one, which was the hours, right? If we say we're going to use 16 hours of planning time and it takes us 32, currently we don't have a mechanism to go and collect that extra 16 hours, right? We can definitely keep track per project or per application that comes in. We can keep track of how many hours we're actually putting on those projects. And then we can set and I think currently right now I've set a $63 per hour for a for the senior planner, and that's to cover salaries and benefits. So that's his cost per hour to cover his salary and benefits. If we set a mechanism in place and we started keeping track of hours for applications, we would set this minimum hour or set our hour what we think it takes. If we go over that, then we can set up something in Citizens to Serve to send them a bill, said, hey, before you guys finalize your permit, it took us another 16 hours. You need to pay this additional X amount of dollars, and then we can finalize your permit.
But be careful doing that, because you run the risk going the other way too. And now you're playing with all of your permits and having to adjust cost one way or the other. So it might be simpler just to, for a year, set a rate, see what how long it takes typically or average, and then see where that comes out, and then maybe make an adjustment in the future, as opposed to all that staff time to try to figure out and bill and back bill, and then checks cut from Sherry and all that. So
yeah, what I've talked with Dean about was, if you guys are good with this and we approve this, we'll definitely set up a spreadsheet for all. We already have spreadsheets for every application we do. We're just going to say, hey, it took us 6 hours for this, 6 hours, and then we can go back and reevaluate this in a year and say, hey, the general special use permit isn't taking 16 hours; it's taking 4, right? That'd be a drastic decrease. Or we can come back and say that general special use permit on average is taking us 24 hours, and we need to increase that more. So, did I answer all your questions, Eric?
Any other questions?
It did, and thank you for that. And maybe it is a situation where we get this established and we monitor it for 1 year and see if we are having a lot of overages or underages, and then we can readdress it at that time. But on second trip permits, I do think I want to ask that we maybe look into that, to where we can charge additional fee if we have to have multiple inspections because they weren't ready for inspection. I feel like we get something like that in place.
We do have a reinspection fee. I think it was, off the top of my head, I think it was like $50. So it's less than our initial inspection fee, but we do have a reinspect fee. We do have a second trip fee. So we have those in place.
Perfect.
We don't use them very often because most contractors are, they're good about being there. It's just having their stuff done. But and sometimes we'll just, if they need a reinspect and we're out in the field, we'll just swing by there, do it real quick, and come back. So it's kind of a judgment base at that point. But typically we don't really have that issue in the building department anyway.
Okay, any other questions or comments from board or staff? Okay, is there any public comment on this agenda item? You got more?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, go for it. Go for it.
So again, the next two things we're going to talk about are more for discussion. These ones in the last item are more kind of a proposal of what we want to do with our fee schedules. So next I want to talk about, find my remote since I'm in control here. Our water dedication fees. This is something that we don't really have on a fee schedule that we want to add on a fee schedule, and be more clear on our fee schedule, right? So we have water dedication fees, and typically we have water dedication fees for rural development, and we have water dedication fees that for any development that ties into our water system, right? And again, I'll kind of these three slides. The first three slides here are regurgitation from code, but our water dedication requirements for rural development, which include parcel maps, division into large parcels, second and subsequent parcel maps, and industrial subdivision maps that are not connected to the county water system, as a condition of approval, shall dedicate to Churchill County 2 acre-feet of surface water. And surface is what I want to highlight here. Per parcel that may be used by the county to ensure long-term sustainability of the county water resources and to ensure that a balance is maintained between aquifer recharge and water withdrawal. Total number of lots represented in the map determines how many acre-feet will be dedicated regardless of existing buildings and wells. So that's kind of, if somebody comes in, wants to create a parcel that's nowhere near our water system, we require that they dedicate 2 acre-feet of water. If they don't have water on the parcel to dedicate, there's a payment in lieu of fee. And that payment in lieu of, we'll talk about that at the last slide here, is still 2 acre-feet of water at the market value of that water. So if that, and we'll talk about those fees. So I don't want to get ahead of myself. Water dedication, switch slides here. Water dedication requirements for county water system. So this is if somebody's tying into our water system. Churchill County requires each applicant that is required to connect or being delivered water by the county water system to dedicate to the county the required amount of underground water rights prior to connection to the county water system. So again, not surface, it's underground water. And that's where we want to be clear on our fee schedule, is what water needs to be dedicated. So there's an understanding, because there is a mix-up in, well, I only need to dedicate 2 acre-feet of water. I have surface. Well, you're tied into the system, you can't, because it needs to be underground water. So, single-family residential, the county shall determine the amount of water rights needed to satisfy dedication requirements. This shall be based on a dedication rate of 1.12 acre-feet per single-family residence. So their dedication for that is 1.12 acre-feet of groundwater. The other one was 2 acre-feet of surface water. Dedication for a single-family residence on parcels of size equal to or larger than 1.5 acres shall be based on a rate of 1.12 acre-feet for the first 1.5 acres, 0.6, 0.5, blah, blah, blah. And then there's some verbiage in there for multifamily. That's if they have groundwater to dedicate. If they don't have water to dedicate, there's the payment in lieu of fee. And here we've got application upon demonstration that adequate underground water rights cannot be reasonably dedicated to satisfy the total amount of water resources required to serve the proposed use or development may be permitted by the county to provide some or all of the following to satisfy water right dedication. A domestic well credit for each residential unit, or a payment in lieu of fee, a payment in lieu of dedication equal to the current market value, so that's key, of the water rights required for dedication multiplied by a factor of, and I'm just going to stick with the residential, for residential units of less than 4 units per acre is 1.5, but is that multiply factor. So that's if somebody doesn't have water to dedicate. So now we talk about fees. So the dedication for rural development, we had our appraisal done on our water. For surface water, at a 3.5 duty, the surface water market value was $7,350. That's $2,100 per acre foot. They need to dedicate 2 acre-feet of water. If they don't have the water to dedicate, they pay the $2,100 times 2 is $4,200. I think currently we're at $3,270. Yeah, something like that. So that has to be adjusted to match our market value. Dedication for development connecting to Churchill County water facilities is the groundwater market value at 3.5 duty, and that could be wrong. That's per acre foot. So that's a wrong, yeah. Yeah. So that's a wrong, the 3.5 duty is not there. Our groundwater is 12,500 per acre foot, right? Again, per Churchill County Code, they're required to dedicate 1.12 acre feet of water times the multiplier of 1.5 if it's single family, less than 4 lots per acre. Comes out to be $21,000 per lot.
Randy,
Yes,
can
sir.
you explain to the board what that 0.5, 0.3, 0.2 premium is used for?
1.5, the 1.
Yeah, I mean, why we use that unit density? Or Joe?
Sure.
Sorry, you had a blank look on your face.
I'll go ahead and explain this. So not too long ago, we updated this and we added this premium. And the purpose of this was we want to encourage folks to go out and find water, right, instead of using the counties. In addition, there's some additional costs other than the flat market rate of water, right? On a, say, high-density development, the cost of transferring the water, moving the water around can be absorbed. Whereas on a small unit density, say one house, all of those costs ends up being picked up by the county. Additionally, the intent here is some point in time we have to replace this water or look for an ability to acquire water. And if we sell purely at market value, we could put ourselves in a position where when we go to acquire water or search for water, we don't have the money to fund it. And so the intent of this premium was to say, look, if we do a large development, say have a 20% premium, we can come in and say, look, when the next time a piece of land with water comes up, we'll have the ability to buy it. Where if we, say, do a straight market, maybe we could afford the water, but not the land, that kind of issue. But it does obviously drive up rates, especially if you're doing low density.
So how does that work for your additional dwellings? Do you make them dedicate more water when they add additional dwellings that are drawing on the same well?
I think and I'd have to verify it in code, but I think in the code it says that they're exempt from that. So,
Even though you're adding more people using the same well?
but I'll double check that and make sure. The reason why we bring this up is because, we've got some developments that are kind of either in the tentative map or final map stage, and this is a concern, right? The high cost of water dedication. I just wanted to bring up that when we put these on our fees, that we're putting the right thing on and we're clear of what we're putting on, that it's either groundwater or surface water and how much that actually costs. So when somebody calls, they don't get a different answer from one person to another person, and I just want clarity on that fee schedule. If there's any appetite to change this, it's going to involve a code change, because again, these are set in code. Nothing that for our fee schedule, but I just wanted to point out that if we wanted to, if there was an appetite to look into changing this, then we'd have to do that at a later date.
Any questions on that or thoughts?
I just want to revisit how long ago was that 1.5 multiplier put in there, and is that on every groundwater per acre feet? I mean, is it for every one?
So this was done 2 years ago. That multiplier is on any payment in lieu. So obviously, if they choose to dedicate water that they have themselves, it's straight across. But if they choose to pay instead of doing a dedication of water, it applies. The 1.5 is on anything where they're doing unit densities of less than 4 per acre. And I think 1.3 was 8 per acre, and 1.2 was greater than that. And so I have had some folks, discuss that maybe it shouldn't be unit density, it should be total number of dedicated water rights, which is sort of addresses part of the issue, which is, the cost of the county in terms of doing an action, transferring the water, locating the water, going through the process and things like that. Large developments that are single-family homes on acre lots would be at the 1.5 rate, even if they were doing 300 homes.
So building a single house still has the 1.5 multiplier.
That is correct.
If it's underground.
If it is connecting to our system and they
Yeah, it
do
would
not
be
have
because
water,
the
yes.
subdivisions that are in question are connecting to our water system. So they would, that's talking only about that.
Any other questions?
And then, and you said that there's been discussions, there's discussions being had about the dedication of the 1.12.
Yeah, so we have a local developer that's, analyzing the water that's actually being used for our residents that are currently on the system, right? Right now, we have a 1.12 dedication rate. I think that number's kind of done by the state. We've seen in preliminary numbers that the actual water being used is more closer to half of that, right? So this 1.12 has kind of always been in code. I think that's kind of followed what state requires. There has been a desire from developers for us to, and other agencies have proposed to lower that rate. But we have to kind of, what we're doing now is gathering information from existing homes, seeing how much water each parcel is using, so we have that backup data to where if we wanted to propose, you guys want to propose lowering that to say a 0.6 or whatever, that we have the backup numbers that we're not above that number. So,
Correct me if I'm wrong, the state would have to approve that, correct?
I was just going to say that. While we're gathering this data, we're going to ship that off to our engineer for him to look at and kind of give us that third-party analysis to make sure we're not making this decision on our own. But any sort of change that we want to make has to be applied to and approved by the state water engineer. And just a little bit of background, several years ago, I think it was before I got here, there was an application put into the state water engineer to reduce that by Churchill County. And at the time, the state water engineer felt that we didn't have enough users on our system to justify making that change. Now, we haven't gained many more users, but we've gained a lot more history. So we're hopeful that, with the data that's being collected right now, with it being analyzed by, our engineer, and getting solid backup, having more history, that might be enough to have the state water engineer approve that application. But ultimately, it's their decision. All we can really do is provide the data and as much backup as we can, but ultimately, it's the state water engineer's decision whether or not that can be reduced or not.
Any other questions? Okay, go ahead, Randy. Oh, go ahead, Tasha.
Oh, but I'm going back to the fees. So you want to keep going with water? And I can come back? Perfect, I'll wait.
So the next one we want to talk about is our water and sewer connection fees. Again, this is a fee that is paid for currently at time of building permit. We have a connection privilege fee of $7,200 shall be charged for each new residential water service which has not previously been provided by the developer for all services. And then we have the same thing. We have the same $6,500 to connect for the sewer connection. These fees are collected. They're put into a fund, and their intended use is to be for. Did you get me? The intended use of that is to be for expansion or upgrades. There you go. I lost the word. We've had some, again, desire by developers to propose to lower these fees. These fees, I think the sewer fee was done in 2014. I'm not sure when the water fee was done. But again, that's just been some desire from developers to lower that cost of the connection fee. And I'll kind of get into some of, that stuff in the building department. So again, these are actually in code, these two fees. We can't do, these not part of our fee schedule. So if we wanted to, if there was an appetite to change these fees, then we would have to do a code change to do that. I just want to have some clarity, and you'll see in the building department flat fees where we have another connection fee or another inspection fee that I want to incorporate into these fees. So again, just bringing it up that these fees are out there and there's some desire for them to be lowered. Any questions on that one?
What's the cost associated with the water connection fee?
Yeah, so the water connection fee, the water connection fee, so when a development is built, the developer will put in the mains, they'll put in the lateral, and they'll put a meter pit for each parcel. When we go to the building permit, they actually install the meter, and then they install the service line to the house. For us, it's probably an hour of SBB's time to install the water meter, and then there's probably a trip for us to do inspection for the service line to the house. So you're probably about 2 hours of time, and then you're approximately $250 for the water meter. So it's $500-$600 is really just kind of the cost it would take to tie into the water system or to do that connection. Again, that money is to go in an enterprise fund for upgrades or expansion to facilities. As far as the sewer, really we go and inspect the sewer lateral that ties into the main, make sure that they've got slope from the house to the connection. It's one trip for us to go do that, and again, that's probably an hour.
Have you put any thought into what a new rate would be if we were to ask you to consider lowering the rate?
Randy, let me take this. So right now, there's a bit of a barrier to development here, just because, if you were just to look at the water dedication, you're looking at $21,000 for a door. That's equal to, or in some cases even more than what other municipalities are charging. So now you roll the building permit into that. You roll the $7,200 into that for the water, $6,500 in there for the sewer. You roll in your road fee at $2,300, your Parks and Rec fee for $900. You're north of $40,000, which becomes a real barrier for anybody to want to do any sort of development here. And so we've been looking at this at several different angles. Obviously, the premium is one thing that can be looked at. If we can successfully get the water dedication reduced, that goes against that barrier, and it also helps the county in the sense that now we actually have some more capacity in our water treatment plant because we're not using that 1.12. The $7,200, when somebody pays you that $7,200 to hook in, they're going to be paying you a monthly fee for water that's being used. Same thing with the sewer. There's that monthly fee. So that is something that if the board would be interested in, it could be something that could be looked at to maybe align more with some of the hard costs that are there. The road fee, I struggle with that one a little bit because, again, we don't have property taxes that helps us with roads. This is kind of a one-time shot, so maybe that's not something that we look at, and same with the parks. This is all something that we want to put into a proposal to take in front of the board, but I think the tip of the spear for all this is that water dedication rate. I don't think, and this is just my opinion, you guys can decide what you want to do. I don't think we should be looking at reducing the $7,200 or the $6,500 until we know what's happening with that water dedication, because you don't want to now overcut by accident and have those reduced. So we're in the process of collecting all that data, getting that out to the engineer, and then coming to you with some sort of a proposal to say, if the county's interested in keeping growth going or breaking down some of these cost barriers for development, this is an avenue that you could go down to try to help that. So that was kind of our idea with this whole process.
And I think it goes beyond developers, right? Big developers, if I have an acre of ground and I want to build on it, it's almost cost prohibitive to build on it. So I would like to see something, where, I don't know, I'm just going to throw it out there, if it's 50% of what it is today, calculate how many years it takes to gain what we lost there. So we can kind of have a number to it. Okay, we're going to get them in there. Or maybe there's a fee of, I don't know, an extra $5 fee a month or whatever that is. But there's got to be a way that we can, I'm not even concentrating on developers. I'm looking around the room, not a developer sitting here, but I'm looking at a lot of individuals that own a home or maybe want to build a home. And man, it makes it pretty tough when you look at these numbers. If it's just to build a home.
I just want to point one thing out too. When we collect these connection fees, that's a one-time, well, you're back. That's a one-time revenue stream that we're getting. But if that connection to water and sewer gets somebody to build a house or a business, that's tax revenue that we collect every year over year over year over year. So we want to make sure we're not being too short-sighted on the front end and missing out on the fact that this is going to promote some growth, this is going to generate tax dollars, and so we just got to make sure that we balance that out.
I agree.
Can I add to that too? If, again, these are for upgrades or expansion, right? And if we were to, I'm just throwing numbers out there, we do Sand Creek, Willow Creek, and Riverstone, Moody's at capacity, right? So if those 3 developments go and we have another one, and those fees go down that are going into this fund for expansion and improvements to that or upgrades, those if we lower those, but we're gaining more tax revenue, some of that tax revenue needs to be applied for that expansion and growth, right? I mean,
I get.
No?
I get what you're saying, but I don't.
Yeah, the intent is for expansion and for the growth, but if we're lowering that, then there's less money that goes towards that. So, no, not saying we can't go get other money for that. I mean, grant money, or we can find other money.
Well, and if the board were to make a decision and say, we're going to do this, with the understanding that when we feel we've achieved the growth that we want to get to, and we want to plateau that out, we reserve the right to bring these fees back to where they are so that we can build another plant, because that's what we need, so.
I just want to echo Chris's statement about the cost. I just spoke with a fee appraiser last week who said the exact same thing. All those costs add up, which makes it cost prohibitive for any type of growth, so.
Go ahead, no.
Just to reiterate again, if you guys want to entertain that, I mean, we take whatever you want us to do, we can prepare that stuff and bring that forward in a proposed code change.
I think yes, at least in my opinion, just myself, I kind of want to wait and see what the state does, because I think that's the biggest moving target right there right now, is that if that's not going to change, then I don't know. If that doesn't change, the county would have to decide, us county commissioners would have to decide to basically subsidize, housing by taking a cut on water or something like that to actually fund housing. So I would like to wait until the state gets back.
Concerning that comment Commissioner Ghetto made there, we, the county, we do all the work and provide our findings to the state, and they just verify our findings that, yes, we agree with you on the water dedication. Is that how I understand that? It's not like they do their own independent study and determine this. They evaluate what we provide them. Is that correct or incorrect? You don't know?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Like I said, I wasn't here when they did the first one, but I gotta believe that they're not gonna go out and do a bunch of studying on their own. I really believe they're expecting us to bring thorough data to them that is being supported by somebody that knows how to read and understand thorough data to be able to make a decision on. Because I don't think they're gonna do, I mean, I don't think you're gonna bring them the data and say, okay, figure out what our dedication should be.
And I think that's how that works. I mean, I'm definitely on in agreement that we first have to determine what is our water dedication. And that's sort of going to drive everything else. And then once we determine our water dedication, then we can maybe look at these other things. But I would like to go ahead and ask staff to aggressively look at what that looks like. Where do we want to be on our connection fees, and what's that look like? And then the enterprise fund that it goes into. Is that enterprise fund, is it invested to where it has a return on it while it's sitting there waiting to be used? Can that money be invested on the backside to always help build that fund? That'd be a way to help make up the difference of if we do reduce it. You know, that's something to think about. And then County Manager Spross brought up the road. When I'm looking at this, I'd like for the staff to look at the road impact fee. I don't know that it's enough. So we, you know, like we might lower some of this other stuff, but we might need to bring that road impact up just a little for current times, you know, to, before we just drop it and then not do anything to the road impact. I'd like for that to be looked at as well. And then I don't know too much about the 1.5 that was put in there a couple years ago. It looks like to me it's a interest is what it looks like to me ahead of time. So I'd like to see if, you know, is that necessary? I don't know. I couldn't see where any other county had that sort of situation, but I'm not an expert in water either. But I'd like to evaluate, is 1.5, is that a good number? Can it be lower? I mean, if we have to have the number, that's the first thing, right? Do we have to have that? Yes or no? If we do have to have it, can it be lower? Does it need to be higher? Since we're making this evaluation, we need to evaluate that as well.
Any other
Well,
questions?
I think it's one of those chicken or the egg situations, right? If you get rid of that and you get house, and then we get people on our water system, we're gonna have monthly fees coming in, so that's one of the first things I'd like to get rid of, so.
And on the water, are we gonna do a new resolution on the water, on the surface water market value? Because the resolution that we're using for customers that come into our office is well outdated. So if we have a new study that shows what the fair market value, I would like a new resolution done, you know, so that when people come in and they don't know the value of water, we're giving them a price from 20 years ago. So that's just something to consider.
I think this discussion here is setting that up to be able to do all this in the future when the board kind of makes that decision. I think that's all part of what's going to have to happen.
And I'm just gonna go back to the fees and stuff, you know, it's been 20 years. You know, we need to revisit this because some of them had to be adjusted drastically. I think it's better if we revisit this every year or two.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, it can be minor adjustments.
So you don't have that
Let's not
sticker shock.
Let's not let it go that long again.
And then maybe staff can discuss that, like what's the best way to get those reviewed? You know, is it something you do inter-office and you just change them yourself? Does it need to come to us on the consent agenda? Does it need to whatever, you know, those kind of things?
Go ahead, Pam.
Pam Moore for the record. This is a procedural question that I have for council, and I'm sorry, Randy, the last time you and I talked, when we talked about this workshop, you said it was going to be a non-action item, and then I ended up was out sick when this agenda got posted, and when I got to work, I saw that it was an action item. All fee schedules have always been done as a resolution, which we haven't agendized, so I just wanted to put that out there that I don't think you should approve it today. I think it should go to the next board meeting as a resolution.
Perfect. Thank you, Pam.
There was an intention of approving it today. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
I just think I'd like to encourage staff to work on all of this, everything that's been presented today as a whole, as it might move forward, you know. So once you get your water dedication thing going, the connection fees going, the code changes, the wordage, like in there where it calls out the 2 acre feet, make sure we get fair market value in the code, and then we never have to, you know, and then what can we do where everything will just be automatic?
Yeah, and I think I agree. And really what we want to do is update the fee schedule. That's kind of our first goal. And then for the water dedication and the connection fees, we're going to keep those same fees. Just make it clear on our fee schedule what they are, with the caveat that we would entertain changing those at a later date. Okay.
Perfect.
And the planning department is part of the technology fund. So I would also propose that while you're increasing these fees, maybe a set portion, a set fee out of each one of these goes to the technology fund, because they are part of the technology fund, they use the technology fund. This would increase that for all county users. It benefits everyone. Why you're increasing that, I would just propose maybe putting an additional $25 per item here, that every time you get that, it goes to the tech fund.
Any other questions or comments?
And then you said something about the survey. You're going to revisit that, so that'll be like on the one that you would present to us. You'd have all these thoughts and that put on there.
Yes, we did what it is now. I just need to get with our county surveyor and say, hey, are you upping your fees, or are they staying the same? Again, I can't remember. Thought we renewed his contract in '24. I can't remember exactly when we did. Maybe we don't do it yearly. Maybe it's for X amount of years. So I want to revisit that and say, talk to our surveyor and say, hey, are these fees good? And are these hours we're giving you good for your review? So.
And then thought the recorder Hesse's idea was also, maybe staff can talk about that as well. Is it, might not be $25, might be $2 or $3, something.
I'm not sure how that technology
The
fund
technology
comes out.
fund is fees that were in place by statute and are put there through various funding mechanisms that come down from the state statute. So I don't know if that would be that's what it's there for, and it's for specific things.
But we can look into that
Well,
and
you
make
could
sure.
add money there,
right?
but you're restricting it.
Yeah, we can look and see if it's a viable option.
Okay.
I just had a question on these fees. On a temporary use permit, is that when you have, if somebody was caring for their parents?
Yes.
So it's going from $100 to $800?
Yes. So we have a temporary use permit for farm labor. We have a temporary use permit for watchman's quarters, one for, like you said, caretaker, and then we have one for home construction.
Do we still have a general one, or do we get rid of that?
We got rid of that one. So we got rid of the catch-all one.
And they all require the same amount of work.
Yes. Yeah. And again, those are, we've got, I can't remember, this $479 for our hard and soft costs just to process that application. And then we have a placement permit that's been in place. It was just ran through the building department. Now that we're putting that in there. So it's $779 for our hard and soft costs to process that application.
So the placement permit is included in that fee,
Yes.
and you're not subject to the placement permit fee on top of that?
No, because what we were doing is they would come get their TUP, and then they'd be like, I'm not doing my placement permit. So they would just start living in the RV, and then we'd have to go out as code enforcement and say, hey, we're following up on your temporary use permit. Did you get your placement? I didn't get that. So now it's just more work for us to do as far as the department.
And what's the placement permit cost now?
$300.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions before we move forward?
As County Manager Spross, Director Hines, and Mr. Sanford, do you guys have enough direction to make all this happen?
I think so.
All right.
So the next one, where's my remote? The next one's just building department flat fees. So we've got our building permit fees, and those are kind of run through IBC chart, and it's all based on valuation. We're not proposing to change those, but we do have these flat fees, and these are more kind of desk permits, right? These are minor fees collected for minor building permits, i.e. A re-roof, a water heater replacement, utility connection, et cetera. Fees collected are for processing applications, field inspection, and closing out the permit. Again, these fees haven't been updated in approximately 8 years, could be longer. So go to the next slide. And really, currently right now, we've got $50 for all these fees, all these really flat fee rates. That $50 is about an hour worth of inspector time. So an inspector could drive to Cox Road, or an inspector could drive to Lake Lahontan. Some of those times are longer, some are shorter, but that $50 would I don't think it covers the cost, because I think our $53 an hour rate is for an inspector. So it doesn't really even cover the cost just to inspect it. let alone to process the application. So, what we're talking about, 3 hours of staff time, that's inspector and then our building official and our permit tech. So we were looking at raising these up to $150 to cover those costs. The only one that did, and I verified this with our building official, all of these are one trip for us to do, unless, again, there's a reinspection and we can go apply that reinspection fee. The re-roof typically is 2, because we want to make sure that they've ripped the old roof off before they put the new roof on, and then we go back and they've made sure they've done the installation of the new roof. Also, in here, we had a residential water sewer connection inspection fee, and we also had one for commercial, and these were $150 and $300. I feel that we're kind of double dipping into that because we're already paying a water connection fee and a sewer connection fee. So I'm scrapping those fees out and I'm including it into those water and sewer connection fees. Currently, they're $7,200 and then the $6,500. If those go down, those fees will still be in within those other fees. So those two would go away. The pool permits is staying the same. We're not doing anything with that. And then these were the impact fees that County Manager Spross had mentioned. Just a little bit of background. I don't think that road impact fee's been revised or updated in 20 plus years again. The price of asphalt is considerably higher, or the price for improvements is considerably higher than it was 20 years ago. But again, that is for a different discussion. And then, of course, the park and the school. We weren't proposing to raise those at all. So hopefully I didn't overburden you with too much information, but with that, I can answer any questions.
Okay, any final questions or comments for Randy? Okay, and it's not an.
I would just like to thank you for the work you've put into this. It's my belief that anytime fees, and we don't have to jump into the general fund and put it on the general taxpayer to pay for fees like this, I think, and that's why I'd like to go forward and stay on top of this from here moving forward. So thanks for bringing this forward.
Agreed. Okay, is there any public comment? Noting no public comment, we stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.